Good afternoon, class. Welcome back to the scale worksheet, final page. So, useful tools for this bit of your assignment will be, as per the last couple pages, trusty scale rule, pencil. I find that using my cork back for some of this to have a nice straight edge is useful. If you have one, it's not required and or necessary, but a nice triangle. This is a smaller version of the one I'll probably be using, this 3090 right here. So let's begin by reading the instructions, because that's where all of this should begin, right? So turn the page in landscape orientation, which is this way. Correct? Correct. Let's go back and keep reading a little bit more, right? Draw me a front elevation of a wall. I have given you 2 X's to provide your wall a baseline. Draw a wall that is 16 feet wide and 10 feet tall. In the center of the wall, draw a door that is 3 feet wide and 7 feet tall. Around the door, there is a trim, often called a casing, that is 6 inches wide. Finish the wall with a wainscoting that is 3 feet 3 inches high and a baseboard that is 6 inches high and a cornice that is 9 inches high. Do a quick Google search to familiarize yourself with the underlined terms above, right? So wainscoting, baseboard, cornice. Hang 2 pictures on the wall and put a light switch next to the door. Please use, and make sure this is very, very clear, 1/2 inch scale. Okay? So let's go back to that first bit of information I gave you. Turn this page in landscape orientation. So this is going to be how our front elevation pans out. There are, at the bottom of this page, 2 X's, 1 and 2. So, using my cork back, I'm going to go ahead and from one X to the other, draw a straight line, right? So, that line becomes the baseline for your wall, and because I'm a nice guy, it is already 16 feet wide. Little secret, so you don't have to do a lot of that measuring, okay? Next section, I'm just going to turn the page back to portrait orientation for a minute, so it's easier to see what I'm doing next. The next instruction, draw me the elevation of the wall, okay? So, in order to cut down on some time, I'm going to use my 90-degree here. With a very light touch, I'm going to go ahead and put that corner right on my X. And without being too heavy-handed, because we're going to fill in the line later, I'm just going to go ahead and make a long line, can run off the edge of the page, no problem. I'm going to repeat that process at the bottom. I'm going to line up this edge with our X baseline. Corner to X, nice light line. Can go right off the page because we'll erase it later. Now, how tall was the wall? 10 feet tall, all right? So, we're going to take our scale rule. Let's find our right scale, 1/2 inch. So from the X, working up, let's find 10 again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's our buddy 10. Let's go ahead and make a precise mark right where that 10 is, and let's repeat that process. From the baseline, 0, to 10. Now that I've got this line done at 10 feet, that mark has been made, let's go ahead and connect those 2 points, shall we? I'm using my corkback just because it's a more defined edge. Sometimes the edges of these rulers can get a little woodgy, right? A little wobbly, for lack of a better technical term. So here we go. Point A to point B. Just going to go from that line to that line. And whatever's left over, I'll go ahead and take my eraser and get rid of those lightly marked scribes. Now that we have kind of the topmost point of our wall, we can come back in and readjust our bits of the side wall that we just gently ghosted in to find the height. Okay, very good. Now, let's see what that next bit of information is trying to tell us. 10 feet in the center of the wall, draw a door that is 3 feet wide and 7 feet tall. So, put it back to landscape, and let's find the center point of this baseline, which is what? If you said 8, you're correct, right? Because the width is 16, half of 16, even in half-inch scale, is a lot like 8 feet. So here we go. Let's find that mark. 0. There we go. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the instructions ask you to make a 3-foot door, right? Centered in the wall. So what is half of 3 feet? 1.5, 1 foot 6 inches, right? So the way we're going to look at that, we know where 1 foot from 0 is. 0, 1. We need to use our less than 0 inches here to find that 6-inch mark, which is half of that. So if we begin finding center by putting 1 on center and then measure back 1 foot 6 inches, and then we can also kind of do the reverse here, where if we put 6 inches right on center of the 0 mark, right? 1 foot. So now we have a space at the bottom of our wall that is 0, 1, 2, 3 feet wide. I'm going to come back in with my 90-degree triangle, scribe a couple light lines for the outside of our door. Super light, because we'll come back and erase them. Door was 7 feet tall. I'm going to go ahead and turn that portrait. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7. Going to go ahead and make a tick mark there. Rinse and repeat. I'm going to go ahead and mark that line right across the top of the door. Now, that is the basic opening for a door. The instructions then ask for, we've just done 7 feet tall. Around the door, there is a trim, often called a casing, that is 6 inches wide. Perfect. So let's do this. From the door, all around the outside of the rectangle you've just made, going to start with 0 at the door opening, mark over 6 inches, make a tick mark, and I'm going to come all the way to the center here, 6 inches, right here, and then mark that 0 at the baseline. Come up here to the top of the door, and you can repeat that same process by finding 0 from the door, 6 inches over. Move to the right hand side of the door, go ahead and put that mark on 6 where the door meets, and then mark 0. Now you can come back with your cork back. Make a nice light line. Nice light line. Now let's find the bit of casing that comes around the top of the door here. 6 inches from the top of the door. 6 inches from the top of the door. And let's go ahead and strike that line right across. There we go. That's pretty basic. We'll come back and do some tidying and fancery to it in a little bit after we finish the base and the cornice. Next instruction is finish the wall with a wainscoting that is 3 foot 3 inches high, and a baseboard that is 6 inches high, and a cornice that is 9 inches high. So once you've done a little bit of architectural research about base, cornice, and wainscoting, you can come back and have a better idea of actually what it is you're shooting for. But I'm going to go ahead and mark from the base of the wall. I'm going to move that measurement up 3 inches, right, which is the little spot between 0 and 6. And then I'm going to measure 1, 2, 3 feet. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom here. 3 inches up from 0, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take my ruler and from one side of the page to the next, where you just made those marks, go ahead and scribe a line. Be sure not to go through your door. Stop at the casing on the outside, begin at the casing, finish to the outside. You want a baseboard, which lives down here, that is 6 inches high. So let's go ahead and do that. Six. From point A to point B, remembering not to go through your door and casing and end at the wall. Cornice that is 9 inches tall. So starting from 0 at the top of the wall, let's measure down 9 inches. So here's 3, 6, and 9. Same thing, top of the wall, other side. 3, 6, 9. And we'll go ahead and finish off that line. There you go. Now, it's a pretty basic looking shape, right? This is pretty bland though, so we just want to dress it up a little bit. Based on the research you found while kind of looking through baseboard, wainscoting, cornice, or maybe take a quick look around your house or apartment to figure out what you would like this to look like. I ask you to put 2 pictures in I'm just going to sketch them in really quick before I go back and do a little bit more architectural detail. So depending on what you have on your wall, maybe it's just really simple rectangle. Maybe there's a little bit of molding. Take your time with that. Maybe it's a landscape, right? We know the sun looks like that, right? So I want to kind of dress up this sketch that we've done. We want to be a bit more information forward about what it is that we want to look at. Okay, so typically if you look at a casing around a door, this is mitered here. So let's go ahead and do that. So from corner to corner, corner to corner. And a lot of times this molding around the door might be a little ornate, have a little curve in it. Maybe there's a couple step backs. So let's go ahead and add a couple extra lines in this to see if we can't spruce up what this door looks like. I'm going to start with this top information, and then I'll carry all the rest of the lines down from there. So I like that, and maybe there's like a little swoop at the bottom here. So then if we keep that same idea, let's go ahead and follow the line that you just made down, right? And then just a little guy right in there. Same side, same thing over here. And just a little one right on the inside here. There. It's a little more fancy than it was previously. A little carried away right in here. Now, same thing goes for your baseboards. Add a couple. Doesn't have to be heavy-handed. It can just be really light touch. I think before I do that, gang, I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this pencil too while I'm at it. Baseboard. Top of that board, just give yourself a little line. Maybe there's another one just below that. Right? So you give it just a little extra love and it starts to turn into something just a little more special than a couple lines on a page, right? Let's do the same thing with the cornice. Let's do a couple lines, thin, lightweight at the top. And maybe another small one at the bottom. Another one a little too close at that. Okay. Starting to look a little more interesting. Now this wainscoting isn't going to be a flat panel. Typically at the top of a wainscoting you'll find a bit of architectural molding called a chair rail. Right? So the chair rail goes at the top of this wainscoting. We'll just do another small thin line at the bottom there. All right, now we're starting to look at something, right? Wainscoting, there are certain types that have an architectural feature called a beadboard style. And I'm not going to do any kind of really fancy measuring on this. I'm just going to use kind of my eyeball to see where this ends up for us, okay? So just going to run some vertical lines right at this wall. Just really sketching it in though. You know, I'm not being too crazy about it, but just using my eyeballs for distance gauge, right? do this one whole side for you. I would say if you do use a pencil as opposed to a pen, right? Like I'm using a pencil now because then I can come back. If I make a mistake, I can erase it and check it again. You know, you make a mistake with a pen and it's all about the whiteout bottle and not being able to go back and clean up things. So just make sure you got a pencil on hand and you'll be good to go. And because I'm kind of rushing through this, gang, I think I got a little crooked there. We'll find out once the ruler's past it. We'll see what happens. It's not too bad. So you can start to see, just by adding a couple little extra detail lines, the shape of this wall really starts to flesh out. I have had students in the past add some color pencil to this if it's something you'd be interested in doing, playing around with color. If you want to get really fancy, maybe in your homes you have, you know, some wallpaper up here. You want to make sure you get your light switch at the proper height, and on your doors, make sure that your door handles are at the right height as well. If you want to have your secondary picture on the same wall, feel free to do that. You can do that pretty easily. You can add one on the far side, maybe just do a little framing, right? And your doors. Doors are different all over the world, and you know, my home, my doors have like a 5-panel situation happening, so it's, you know, they're, let's see if I get my spacing right just by sketching it right. It's not too bad. You're gonna want to use your ruler and straight edge for all of this information. But right, so like my doors look like this. Your doors might just be flat, and that's perfectly fine. But if you feel like you want to add a little more pizzazz to your doors, feel free and give it a shot. Let's go ahead while we're here and just finish up wainscoting on this side of the wall. Sometimes these bits of wainscoting too aren't vertical beadboard like this, but maybe they are more kind of inset panels like you'd find in a door. See what you find online and see if you can best represent the idea you like the most, right? But just make sure that your measurements are correct. And all the other information that you put in there is just icing on the scale cake, right? The proportions are true, which means everything will feel correct as we look at these in scale. And then all this extra architectural information that we're adding will just push your sketch past the base level that it can possibly be, right? Right, so this is still, it's sketchy, but provides a lot of information. I think that's it. Have fun with it. Don't get too in your head about it. Just do the measuring, make sure your lines are tight, and then all this little extra stuff is entirely up to you, right? You know how to reach me if you need me. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll talk to you soon.